This is the Depth Mystic Community Podcast, episode 25. And this is our 6-month semi-anniversary. How do you feel about that, Jungian depth mystic, Zach Tollen? Well, I feel pretty good. No, as a separate personality, I didn't actually arrive until a couple months ago. And so really, the two of us were united back when we started. But I do recall that you had set a goal from the beginning, that you would go 6 months and figure out what to do then. You thought, let's just go 6 months and then see where we go from there. And so we basically arrived. Yeah, we achieved the 6-month goal. Now, I don't really have any strong plans to change anything, but maybe it is a good time to think about where we're going. Do you have anything new that you're working on? Jungian depth mystic Zach Tollen? Actually, I do, but I haven't made it public. Basically, it's a blog or a memoir where I'm starting to talk about a really important part of my journey. But until I make that public, I can't really announce it, except by saying that it exists. Well, that's something. We're adding a little something to our career, our stew that we're brewing. Wait, do you brew a stew? No, you don't really brew a stew. You stew a stew. Okay, sorry. We're adding something to the mix, and that's good to know. I guess you've been working on that? Yeah, but did you say before the show that we only had one idea for this episode? That you only had one question to ask? And it was kind of a weird question? Yeah, so as far as the show's concerned, let's talk about hidden politics, hidden leadership, as opposed to public leadership. Okay, that is a thought. I'm going to supplement it with the term that I typically use for the realm of reality in which people have ideas as to what ought to be the case. And I call that yang, like the yin-yang symbol. The yang symbol, it stands for consciousness, heaven, and I have sort of reduced it philosophically to people's ideas about what ought to occur. That's an interesting reduction. I mean, I don't know if all people who use the yin-yang symbol would end up agreeing with you that that's what yang is. But maybe there's somewhere to go with that interpretation. That is my interpretation. And the idea for this week is that we apply that interpretation to politics. And we realize a certain inevitability about politics. Because one thing's for sure, with regard to politics, in the eyes of the public, there are many different incompatible notions of what ought to be the case. What the government should do, or even whether there should be a government at all. There are so many different yangs. That's true. There's an inevitable conflict between all the different yangs, all the different ideas people have of what should happen in politics and government, powerful, high-level societal affairs. Yeah, and what I realize is people don't have an effective mechanism for really resolving these conflicts. Let's say there are 7 different prominent ideas about what the king ought to do. And they can't get along. They have no way of getting along with each other. Let's say they're lettered A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And while a king with values F is in charge, all the people who have values A, B, C, D, E, and G are disgruntled at the king who doesn't have their values. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that there's no resolution. There's no way of getting people who have value set A to appreciate or enjoy the actions of the leaders who have values B, C, D, E, F, or G. There's no way to resolve it. Then you have chaos, right? Okay, if you can't resolve the value systems of the different people who want to be in charge, you're going to have a kind of ceaseless conflict. Yes. So one question is, can the society or the nation or the city, whatever body politic you're working with, survive this ceaseless conflict? Isn't the war between all the different factions who want their values to be in charge going to inevitably weaken the whole nation? Is it not critical that you have one set of values actually ruling over the others? For example, when the standards committees decide what the standard size of a tractor trailer is going to be, they universalize the production of that thing, and it enables everybody to conform to the same standards, which makes the economy go infinitely more smoothly than if everybody was just building truck sizes however they felt like it. So the need to universalize the values to settle on one thing means that you do have to choose one king, as it were. You just have to settle on one set of values, but then you're going to have an infinite disgruntlement of all the people who have opposing values. So the conflict here yields what I think of as an interesting solution. You need to have centralized leadership, or at least power doesn't want to tolerate dissent. So it needs to actually have power, which is to say it needs to exclude all the other people and value systems that don't conform with that power. And that's actually good for the uniformity and coherence of a lot of different entities, including nations, certainly for-profit corporations. Many different social entities require unification. But because the unity requires endless disgruntlement among all the people whose values are not being conformed to, maybe a nation can only work when you don't actually know who's in charge. There's open, clear, obvious power, and then there's secret power. Now remember, in the French Revolution, they killed the king, the whole royal family. The idea here is we're going to remove the obvious power. And ever since that day, kings have been frowned upon. The idea of there being an obvious ruler who sits in public and makes declarations has become frowned upon. But in general, any time the people know who's in charge, they are going to make that a problem. And one way of solving this is to develop a secret society or a secret leadership, and to have that leadership actually be in charge. But since the average person doesn't know, they can't really get angry at what they're doing and what their values are. Maybe the only way to keep a country unified and not have the entire body politic be at war with itself is to not have them know who's running anything. Only on a need-to-know basis. It seems like a really good solution for a bunch of people who can't find a way to resolve their differences. And I think that's actually what's been going on. If you look at Washington, D.C., you see a whole bunch of Freemason-style architecture. And yet the Freemasons are a secret society. And as if they decided, we're going to run things here. And the whole trick is just not to tell anybody. And that's actually a good thing insofar as if everybody was always at each other's throats, then keeping it unified by keeping it secret is an effective way to keep it going. And we can blame all the people who aren't very good at resolving their differences for that fact. You can blame the fact that people really do have different value systems that really do collide, and that they'll fight to the death to see that their value system ranks above all the others. But as long as you have people that are that passionate and are so eager to cheer on their one team, you will end up with a government in the end that is divided. And you can't have that. And that opens up space for the secret societies, assuming that they have an effective way of resolving their differences. So that's the idea. It's barely in the realm of normal depth mystic subject matter. But I do agree that people do get possessed by different archetypes. And that they really do get possessed by them so that they will die for that archetype, which means they won't tolerate seeing someone in charge who doesn't worship their archetype. And insofar as that's the case, then if you make whoever's in charge a public entity, then you might suffer the kind of disunity that could destroy the nation or the city or whatever. Right, so there is a connection. Okay, well, that's episode 25. Leave a comment in one of the discussion groups. And I'll see you next week.